As you guys move into developing your projects for writing project two, we want to kind of consider the gap as part of our starting point. So remember, we want to think about this quote by Robinson, Saldana, and McCoy, where a research gap is identified as a topic or area for which missing or insufficient information limits the ability to reach a conclusion to a question. Now, Robinson, Saldana, and McCoy were thinking about this in terms of a medical context, but essentially, when we talk about any kind of research that we're doing, we're trying to fill in the places where we don't understand enough to be able to see the complete picture of something. So this essentially means we're looking at bias. Now, when we're addressing bias, this means we have to look at the different levels of truth. So we have the concepts of both subjective versus objective truth. Now, subjective truth is one that is personal. So it is something that may be true for us or a group of people, but it's not universally true, and it doesn't hold up over the test of time, where when we look at objective truth, this is more along the lines of the testable truths. So when we looked at the rhetorical appeals, subjective truth very much is part of what is pathos. So people's experiences, memories, values and beliefs, all of these things are what inform our subjective truths. However, with objective truth, this is something that can be tested over and over and over again, and it gives us a different sense of understanding where we can acknowledge other perspectives, take those into account, and get a more detailed view of what is existing in the world. So this idea of our own values without testing for validity is just one side of the story. That's why I like this old meme from the meta picture really well, because it kind of helps us understand that like for example in this picture, if you look to the left, everybody who sees that perspective sees a red square or an orange square. Anybody looking to the right is seeing a blue circle. However, we have to take ourselves away from those subjective truths to see a third perspective. And the third perspective says that both people are right from where they're standing. However, the full picture is that it's a cylinder, not just a square, not just a circle, and that both colors are present. So this is how we then avoid bias. We develop a question where we look at both perspectives and understand how to use those perspectives to see a more detailed truth. So that research, what we find after we step back and look for other perspectives is, again, how we test and triangulate. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. But it's also how we analyze and connect to avoid bias. So if we only stand from the perspective where we can only see the blue circle, we can't see other people's perspectives. We can't see other understandings. We can't see the full picture. And so essentially what that means is that we need to do other work and analyze and connect the ideas, connect the perspectives to really see the objective truth. One thing that might be really important to remember is that if we don't seek out those other perspectives, we essentially have half truth. And until we validate, until we test, until we analyze and connect, we might have gotten a hold of the wrong half. Now with triangulation, we hear this word a lot in like crime shows or in like spy thrillers where we have to triangulate the position of someone. Now, that usually means they're using cell phones or cell phone towers to figure out where someone is. And it's the same thing in research. So just like I said, we have to kind of step back and see a different perspective. Other perspectives help us accurately figure out what's happening. So that's why this triangulation process is so important. With our sources, this is what helps us do that triangulation when we're doing analysis work. The more sources we have, the more perspectives that we look at, the way that we look at our ideas being challenged, these are extremely important because then we get to kind of see how the different conversations happen around this topic. When our ideas are challenged, we get to kind of say, okay, this is how people are saying that this particular idea has problems. Are there ways that we can fix these problems? And if not, that may mean that we get to kind of adapt and change our perspective so that we're actually seeing that objective set of information. Now, with those perspectives come a way to also set up your analysis. Each of those perspectives gives us the opportunity to see and express information in a way that becomes more analytical, that becomes more detailed, that helps us answer more of those follow-up questions in our question cycle process. Now, I'm not going to say that subjective versus objective truth are necessarily uh, opposite sides of the spectrum. Subjective truth can be very good when we're talking about specifically our perspective based on our experiences. However, as we start to move into more complicated research work in our college courses, we have to focus more on that objective truth where we seek out different perspectives, different ideas, and test our own understanding more and more.